Welcome back to Construction 120. And in this video, I'd like to talk a little bit about file management. The idea is you want to be able to manage your model files in a way that you can always have a redundant backup and that you can be able to submit them successfully for a grade. Sometimes things happen. What I don't want you to do is be losing your files and having to start all over toward the end of the semester. That would be a lot of work. There are a lot of different ways to manage files. I'm just going to show you some of the ideas that I've used in managing files over the length of my career here during this class. Here I have a model of our layout for the Construction 120 house, all ready to submit for a grade. As you can see, it hasn't been saved up here. It still says it's untitled. And so I'm going to save it. So I'm going to click on the Save button, and then I'm going to have a screen come up that's going to show me where I can save it. I'm going to save it in SketchUp, so I'm going to click on this SketchUp box, and it'll show the folders that I have in SketchUp. I have one folder called Construction 120, and I could save it there, or I could just save it right here in this area here for SketchUp. I'm going to move my picture out of the way here, and here's where you enter a name. When you name your models, especially when you turn them in, they need to have your name on them, your last name at least. And so that's a good idea just to name them that way. For example, if your name were Jones, for example, type in Jones and then something descriptive like CONST 120 layout. Okay. Looks like I've got 1, 2. I didn't have 0 there. Okay, Construction 120 layout. My name's Jones. So that would be a good way to save it. So I'm going to save that file here in this location. I could have saved it in a folder, but I just saved it right there. Now you can see the name's changed up here to Jones Construction 120 layout. Okay, so there I have my layout file. Now if you go back into, for example, your home page, now I have a lot of different files here because I've been working on this for several semesters, but it'll show different files that you have. I'm just going to open my Trimble content, and within my Trimble content, I'll find all the folders that I have. And sometimes it takes a while for sometimes the internet runs slower than others. And so it takes a while for the content to show up in here. But that Jones file that I showed you will show up here. And we'll come back and see it in just a minute. But I want to come back and show you what I mean by redundant saving of the file. So now you have a file, and it's called Jones Construction 120 Layout. And if I wanted to get rid of that little hyphen there, I could do that. So now it says it's going to be Jones Construction 120 Layout, and it's saved. Now what I want to do is save it as another file. I want to keep this file without damaging it. Right? I'll come in here and I'll say Save As, and it'll go through the same process of having you select where you want to save it and what you want to call it. So I want to save it as, and I'm going to call it Jones. And I'm going to say CONST 120. Then I'm going to call it my next step. I want to call it, my first one was layout. My next one's going to be concrete, for example. I'm going to call this one concrete, and I'm going to save it. Now there's nothing about concrete here, but at this point, I can start working on my concrete. And when I get my concrete finished, I'll save it. I'll just do a save, and that'll save it as concrete. But then when I go to work on another file, I'll do a save as, and I'll call it floor, for example. And then I'll put my floor on. That way, if I'm working on my floor file and something happens to it and it gets erased, which happens sometimes, you can always go back to your concrete file and start from there rather than starting the whole job over.